Okay, you're all set to start the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to call to order a special meeting on December 27th, 2021 for the Village Board of Trustees. And if you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Trustee Cheney?
Here.
Trustee Lindbergh?
Here.
Mayor Newhart?
Here.
Trustee Bachman?
Here.
Trustee McManus?
I'm here.
Stephen Gabbett?
Here.
Pursuant to Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021 permitting local governments to hold meetings remotely and take such actions authorized by law without allowing the public to be physically present at the meetings due to safety concerns related to the Delta variant of COVID-19, the Village of Warwick board meetings will be conducted virtually through Zoom video conference until further notice or until the expiration of the laws on January 15th, 2022. To view the meeting, the public may view the meeting live on the Village of Warwick, New York's YouTube channel. And the public also may view the meeting a day or so after its completion by going to the village's website, villageofwarwick.org. For comments may be sent to the village board prior to the village board meeting by email to clerk@villageofwarwick.org or mail, Village of Warwick, attention Village Clerk, Post Office Box 369, Warwick, New York, 10990. Please indicate in your correspondence that you wish to have your comments read during privilege of the floor. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Raina, if you would please read the notice of public hearing.
Please take notice that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick will hold a public hearing on the 27th day of December 2021 at 11:00 a.m. at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, for the purpose of considering a proposed renewal of the franchise agreement with Cablevision of Warwick, LLC, for cable service in the Village of Warwick. Copies of the proposed cable franchise agreement are on file at the Village Clerk's office, Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, and may be viewed on the village's website at villageofwarwick.org or at Village Hall during Village Clerk's business hours between 8:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Pursuant to Chapter 417 of New York State Laws 2021, the said public hearing will be conducted in the following manner. Members of the Village Board will attend the meeting via Zoom video or teleconference. The public hearing may be viewed live on the Village of Warwick, New York YouTube channel. Interested parties may submit comments to be received by 11 a.m. on December 27th, 2021 via mail. Attention Village Clerk, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, or via email clerk@villageofwarwick.org. Comments may also be made via YouTube during the public hearing by going to the Village of Warwick, New York YouTube channel. No in-person attendance is available or permitted for the meeting. There is no physical meeting location, but for the purpose of compliance with the applicable law, the location of the meeting shall be deemed to be conducted at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990.
Great. Thank you very much, Raina. So with that, we will, do we have any guests?
Yes, we have Roger Connor in the waiting room. Should I let him in?
Yes, please.
And at this time, I haven't received any written comment regarding the public hearing.
Very good. Is Roger here then?
He is.
Yes.
So Roger, we are at the point of the public hearing where we are accepting any comments. Would you like to comment anything to the board at this point?
I just wanted to introduce myself as well, Roger Connor representing Altice in the franchise renewal negotiations. And I'll have try to answer any questions that the board or public may have, or if I can't, I'll take those questions back to the Altice folks.
Well, it doesn't seem any questions right this second, Roger, but maybe something would unfold. Steve, do you have anything that you want to express or to tell the board as we?
We've gone over this contract. It's similar to the one that was previously entered. It's a 10-year term. The board has come up with a list of public buildings that service will be provided to. We've negotiated some changes in the language, but it's essentially the same agreement that the village has had in place moving forward.
Board members, any questions, concerns, thoughts? So with that, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. With that, we close the public hearing. We do have a motion on the agenda, but before that, we do have a point of discussion, and I'm going to ask Trustee Lindberg if you would take that because it's your Bailiwick, Village of Warwick parking courtesy. Maybe give a little explanation of the background of it, and
Sure.
We can speak about it.
Sure. I've been to Skaneateles, New York a number of times. I went there the first time. I noticed parking meters, which were Wi-Fi. They accepted coin and credit cards, and they were also solar powered. And I also noticed they had for their parking, they had parking kiosks for their public parking. So I took another trip in September, and I went to the police station, and I was fortunate enough to talk to the police chief and his sergeant about those topics. He said if you wanted to charge for parking in the lots, he highly recommended the parking kiosks, and any arrangements can be made with those kiosks. The other thing, when we started talking about the parking meters, he said if he had to make the decision again, he would not go with these complicated meters. He said the old quarter is the best option. He was telling us that they're a little bit too complicated for some folks. And he also said when it snows, it covers the top of the meter, which stops the sun from getting to the meter to charge it. So he says he recommended if you have quarter meters, hang on to them. And then he gave me some information about the parking kiosks if we decide to go that route down the road. He did, however, then tell me the best idea that he ever had was to put this, they call it a parking courtesy. It's if you get your email, it has some language that we tailor to the Village of Warwick, but it's in an envelope form. They don't have a police informant officers. The police officers gave tickets for the parking meters, and they are able to go around, and if they see an overextended parking, they are able to increase that 30 minutes or so and actually put this envelope on the dash. And again, as a courtesy. And it's surprisingly, he said that they get quite a bit of money mailed back to the police station from a visitor or whatever, that they did violate the over parking, but decided to make a donation to the Village of Skaneateles anyway. It seems like, I've been with Melissa many times and heard many stories from her, and it's when somebody gets a parking meter ticket, it's never their fault. It's the meter is off. They were only in the store for 5 minutes, and it's unfair. And so I guess in order to just promote some additional friendliness in the village, I think it was a good idea that if we had a car that came in and they were from out of state, as a courtesy from the village, that we take an opportunity to put this envelope on your car. And again, it's written in your email there. We'll put the license plate down and the time, and just give some of these people a break, particularly again out of state. If these people are in a handicapped spot, that's a different story. They should get a ticket regardless. But in some cases, I think this is a good idea to promote. Just promote. Just a sense of grace in the village. Melissa knows all the cars. She knows the cars that are take advantage of the parking in the village. When she talks to people, people say, well, how come you didn't give this person a ticket? You gave me a ticket. So that goes on in the village. So again, we need to be careful with that. But I think it's just a good idea to explore. To promote. We want the folks to come back. We don't want people to leave saying, geez, I got a ticket. I'm not coming back. I'm going someplace else. So it's obviously up for discussion.
Thank you, Bill.
And it's the first draft, and we can obviously make some changes to the draft.
So does a traffic enforcement person pop another quarter in the meter, or?
They could, or just keep track of it. They
just put the envelope on.
Yeah, put the envelope. She usually takes pictures of the license plate in the car and time stamped.
A quarter would be an hour as opposed to 30 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
And if you really wanted to promote goodwill and not leave it at the discretion of one person, just eliminate parking meters in the village.
Well, it's an idea.
No, I'm serious. Michael, you think I'm joking, but I'm serious. We spend a lot of time. Bill says listening to people who have only been there for 5 minutes. I've this, I've that. I ran in, and the meter's wrong. Just take the meters out, and instead of one person having to walk around and decide this person gets an extra 30 minutes and this person doesn't, eliminate the discretion of someone who may or may not like somebody in the village and issues tickets. Just eliminate parking meters. Don't eliminate how long you can park in a spot. Just eliminate the meters.
Well, one of the advantages of having the meters and then also having a time limit on the meters is to promote parking for the customers. There are still quite a few owners of the buildings, of the businesses that park in front of their stores as long as they can. And it doesn't promote customers. So I think a big reason for meters is to promote parking for the customers.
We've been arguing about shop owners taking up customer parking for 19 years that I've been on the board,
and
it hasn't changed. And and the new board who takes over is going to have those same arguments. So again, eliminate the meters, and if the owners of the businesses want to make it difficult for their customers to park, so be it. Instead of one person having the discretion of who gets an extra 30 minutes or an extra 15 minutes or an extra hour, or whatever it may be. It's at the discretion of one person. And that's not right. It's either we have a law and we have parking meters and we enforce those signs and those limits, but we don't have meters and we come up with some other solution of just leaving signs on how long you can park there and let it go at that. It's a fight that's been going on forever.
Well, in my opinion, we're winning that fight, George.
Well, if we were winning that fight, Bill, we wouldn't have this discussion.
Bill, I'm just curious, why 30 minutes?
That's what Skinny Analyst does. They're able to program that, that meter very easily. But we can obviously, if they're putting a quarter, we can make it an hour. So that's up for discussion.
I mean, the other thing we could do is, if we're using the envelopes, put on the envelope the time that you did it, and we're giving you a grace period of an additional 30 minutes.
Sure.
And then when Melissa comes back, I see that the importance of being able to give somebody that 5 or 10 minute grace period. They show up 3 minutes after Melissa's written the ticket, and they're upset. And instead of being upset with themselves for not following the time, they take it out on Melissa and the village. So it would seem that, if you're given that grace period, if you're not out of there in 30 minutes, then you deserve a ticket.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If I may, there are two legal issues here. The first one is that a municipality cannot engage in fundraising. You can, however, accept donations and alert the public to the fact that you're willing to accept donations for a particular fund or purpose, whatever it may be. So you have to be careful on how you write these letters so that you don't fall on the fundraising side, which would be illegal.
Right.
I think a few tweaks and you could get there with this, but I'm a little concerned about the language you have in there now.
Okay.
The second legal issue is gift of public funds. You cannot constitutionally make a gift of public funds to private individuals, even if it's for as little as a quarter. Now, as an enforcement matter, you can decide that you're not going to issue a ticket because, well, there are practical problems with prosecuting and collecting on tickets. And if it's a small matter or something that if you did it every time, it would just build up and cause more problems and expenses than enforcing it would, you certainly could do that. That's why a policeman can let you off with a warning if you are caught speeding only a few miles over the speed limit and so forth. So here, if you want to say we're going to extend the parking periods, whether it's half an hour, whatever it is, you certainly can legally do that as an enforcement decision. You have people who are a short time over, we're willing to give them a grace period rather than issuing them a ticket and then putting up with all the administrative difficulties that a short time ticket can entail when people either fight them or complain about them. But I'm troubled by the idea of putting another quarter in the meter. I mean, even if you reimbursed your traffic enforcement person, now you're actually spending public funds on increasing the meter time. And I know it's the same thing as just not doing anything is a practical matter, but I think legally funds are coming out of the municipality to benefit an individual, and I'm troubled by that. So if you want to say we're going to let the meter stay expired and just put the envelope on the window, I think that can be done, but I'm very leery of the idea of actually feeding the meter for people.
Okay, all right, good point. The second sentence in our draft says, kindly help us maintain this courtesy fund by placing a donation in this envelope and drop it in the mail slot. So it does talk about a donation.
It does, but it kind of sounds like a solicitation of a donation. And I know it's a fine line, but you can apprise the public that you're accepting donations, because you always can accept a donation, for a particular thing. What you can't do is actually ask them to give it to you. Okay. And I'm a little, look, just a couple minor tweaks to make me happy. Okay. I'm sure you'll be fine there.
Okay.
I mean, that is if you want to go forward with it. The board obviously still has to decide.
Well, I can tell you for years, people didn't understand that they could not feed the meters until, we advertised it and through Melissa, through an education process, and John, being the first enforcement person. But there definitely has been a difference, with the parking availability in the village. There are more spots available to the customers, and except for a few exceptions, it's much easier for our customers to park and near the stores they're going into.
Well, it sounds like the board has somewhat of a consensus on this. Should we pass it on to council and have him look at the language and maybe it could be tweaked?
Sure.
The only other thing that concerns me, and it's not really a legal matter, it's just, as George brought up, how does your traffic enforcement person decide when to do this and when not to? I mean, it says she doesn't have to do this. I mean, there's got to be some criteria. It can't just be totally discretionary. If she comes and it's 5 minutes over, she gives or it's 10 or 15. If she comes and it's 55 minutes over, does she give it? I mean, if it's 56, she doesn't. I'm just not sure exactly, unless you're just giving them carte blanche, do it when you want to, and then when you don't. And if you do that,
yeah, no, that's definitely a concern. I was talking to Melissa about this, and I said, well, how many times, per week do you feel that you would be able to give somebody a break? Again, and it's mostly from people that are out of town. And she said, maybe one or two times. And we didn't talk about, how long, 5 minutes or half hour. We didn't talk about that topic. But she knows all the cars in the village from all the people that own stores. So she would have a very good idea who would deserve supposedly this grace period. And it would be at her discretion, but it's based on, she's doing this job for a couple of years, so, and I'm not worried about that. I'm not concerned about that.
I don't mean to give you a hard time, Bill, but you say she'd know who deserved it. What's the criteria for deserving the break? I mean, just if you were to say to her, tell us what is it? When are you going to do this? When are you not going to do this? I mean, it can't be just as the good Lord moves her. There's got to be some. She deserved this,
Well, somebody from Alabama coming in, for the season, or somebody coming in from Florida. That would be a reason.
So would the criteria be out-of-state plates? I mean, is that what you're saying?
Very possibly. It's a courtesy. So it's a show of goodwill for the village. I came to village. I don't want them to leave saying, all I got was a ticket. I want them to come back. So again, there is discretion.
And it would not be parking lots. It would just be the metered parking?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what the Skinny Atlas does. It can certainly be expanded to a lot.
Well, I think as a matter of time, I mean, I think this is something that we can all kind of think out a little bit. We have a meeting in next Monday. And Steve, if you want to just take a look at the language, if there's some simple way of tweaking it, and then think about the criteria. I think the criteria is critical, and how we shape this. It's sort of a kind of a goodwill gesture, understood, but we also have to make it understood that it is not something, it's not a gift that the parking enforcement officer is going to give to the people that he or she likes. So, you know, that criteria is critical.
I don't understand why if you're going to do this, why we're only giving a courtesy to someone who parks on Main Street or someone who has a meter where they can disobey the parking rules in the parking lot.
Well, I was just curious about that. I mean, Bill said that it could be the parking lots as well.
You got to remember, we're the only village of the 3 in the town that has parking meters. Florida doesn't have meters. Greenwood Lake doesn't have meters. I still say we should take the meters out. We'd have a lot less issues to deal with about parking. I mean, arbitrarily different rules for parking in different parts of the village, you know, from Main Street parking meter or a South Street parking lot. They went to the same stores, and the same person from Alabama or Florida might not know there's a limit in the parking lot. So we're not going to give them a courtesy, but we're going to give the guy who parked on Main Street a courtesy. I think we're down a slippery slope of selectively enforcing laws, and you know who's getting off and who's not. I hope council looks at it very realistically.
Yeah, well, and I hope the board really dwells and thinks about it in the next week. Just as you point out, you know, really important points. So we'll end the discussion here, but please, and we'll put it on the next agenda as a continuation. And Steve, if you would take a closer look. Don't stay up at night, but take a closer look. So we're going to move on to motions, and there's a resolution, and you know, Corey, I'm going to give it to you as a Christmas gift.
You would.
Why don't you give them both of them?
I'll take those. Okay, number 1, resolution of the Village Board of the Village of Warwick renewing the cable franchise of Cablevision of Warwick, LLC. Whereas the Village of Warwick, the village, is a franchising authority in accordance with Title 6 of the Communications Act of 1934, the Communications Act, and is authorized to grant cable franchisees pursuant to Article 11 of the New York State Public Service Law and Title 16, Chapter 8 of the official compilation of codes, rules, and regulations of the state of New York, the cable laws. Whereas Cablevision of Warwick, LLC, Cablevision currently provides telecommunications and information services within the village pursuant to authority under Section 27 of the New York Transportation Corporations Law and Title II of the Communications Act. And whereas Cablevision has submitted a draft written franchise agreement to continue providing cable service within the village for the next 10 years. And whereas due negotiations between the village and Cablevision have resulted in a proposed cable franchise agreement, a copy of which has been filed with the village clerk. And whereas New York State Public Service Commission has sole jurisdiction over the secret proceedings in this matter. And whereas on December 27, 2021, at a meeting of the village board, a public hearing was held on the proposed cable franchise agreement, at which members of the village board, Cablevision, and the public were given notice and opportunity to comment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the village board of the Village of Warwick finds that it approves the character of Cablevision, and be it further resolved that the village board finds that Cablevision is legally, technically, and financially and otherwise qualified to meet the cable-related needs and interests of the village and will meet all statutory and regulatory non-discrimination requirements. Be it further resolved that the village board finds that although the terms of the proposed cable franchise agreement are not identical to those of the franchise agreement with the incumbent operator, the terms of both agreements contain no economic or regulatory burdens, which, when taken as a whole, are greater or lesser than those burdens placed upon one another. And be it further resolved that the village board authorizes the award of a non-exclusive franchise to Cablevision to own, construct, operate, and maintain a cable system along the public rights of way within the village in order to provide cable service, which authorization is made in accordance with the applicable provisions of Title VI of the Communications Act and the cable laws. And be it further resolved that the village board authorizes the mayor to enter into the cable franchise agreement with Cablevision of Warwick LLC and to execute any other documents necessary to effectuate the granting of the franchise on behalf of the village of Warwick.
Second.
Trustee Cheney,
Yes.
trustee Lindbergh,
Yes.
trustee McManus,
Yes.
trustee Bachman,
Yes.
Mayor Newhart,
Yes.
Number 2, resolution introducing proposed local law to amend Village Code chapters 39, 90, and A150 to enact a new chapter 39A regarding facility use and park regulations and permits. Whereas the village board of the Village of Warwick has before it a proposed local law entitled a local law to amend Village Code chapters 39 and 90 and A150 regarding village parks and facility use permits, to enact a new chapter 39A regarding assemblies. And whereas in order to consider adoption of the proposed local law, it is necessary to first introduce it and hold a public hearing upon it. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, that the movement of this resolution does hereby introduce the attached proposed local law. And 2, that a public hearing on the said local law is hereby set for January 8th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. And 3, that the village clerk shall publish and post notice of the public hearing.
Second.
trustee Cheney,
Yes.
trustee Lindbergh,
Is it January 8th or 18th?
18.
18. He said 18.
He said, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes.
Trustee McManus,
Yes.
trustee Bachman,
Yes.
Mayor Newhart,
Yes. We do have to go into executive session, but before that, are there any final comments from the board?
If you weren't going to do it, wish everyone a happy new year
Yes, of course.
and remind them about Apple Eve
Yes.
will be taking place at 11:30
Yes.
on Railroad Avenue.
Very good. Thank you, Barry. Yes. I'd like to wish everyone, of course, I would like to wish the board a very happy new year and, healthy, happy season ahead. We have a lot to be grateful for and we have a lot of challenges, but I feel promise. So I'd like someone to make a motion to go into executive session for let's see, collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law and the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we will come back into our regular board meeting, but we will not make any decisions, any motions at that point.
send out a